What would you do if the person you trusted to protect your child turned out to be hiding a dangerous secret? Tonight, we unravel the shocking story of a babysitter whose prejudice and greed went too far. But she didn't count on the quick thinking of one brave kid. Stay tuned, because the twists in this tale will leave you questioning who you can really trust. Before we jump into this eye-opening story, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that will leave you thinking long after the credits roll. The Anderson family lived in a cozy suburban neighborhood, known for their warm smiles and friendly demeanor. Mr. Anderson was a dedicated software engineer, often glued to his laptop, while Mrs. Anderson worked tirelessly as a nurse. Their only child, Liam, was a spirited 10-year-old who loved superhero comics and building intricate Lego sets. Despite his occasional pranks, Liam's heart was in the right place, and he was quick to stand up for what he believed was fair. On a Friday evening, the Andersons were preparing for a rare night out. They had been searching for a babysitter who could manage Liam's energy after their previous sitter abruptly quit. Enter Miss Beverly, a middle-aged woman with neatly combed hair and an air of confidence. She arrived punctually, dressed in a conservative outfit, and greeted the Andersons with a warm, rehearsed smile. As Beverly spoke, she exuded charm, assuring the parents she had years of experience and a knack for handling difficult children. "You won't have to worry about a thing," she said sweetly. The Andersons seemed relieved, but Liam, watching from the corner of the room, felt something was off. When the parents turned away, Beverly's friendly smile faded. She shot Liam a sharp glance, then quickly masked it as his parents looked back. "I'll make sure he's well behaved," she added with a sugary tone. Before leaving, Mr. Anderson handed Beverly a crisp $50 bill. "This is for dinner," he said. "Feel free to order whatever you both like." Mrs. Anderson leaned down to Liam. "Be good, okay? We'll be back by 10. The door closed behind them, leaving Beverly and Liam alone in the house. For a moment, there was silence. Then Beverly's demeanor changed entirely. "Let's get one thing straight," she said, her voice cold and commanding. "You'll do exactly what I say tonight, or you'll regret it." Liam blinked, caught off guard by her sudden shift. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his tone defensive. Beverly sneered. "Don't play dumb. I've heard all about you. The other sitters couldn't stand you, but trust me, I'm not as patient as they were." Liam crossed his arms, his sharp sense of justice already on high alert. He didn't know what Beverly had planned, but he wasn't going to let her intimidate him. This was no ordinary babysitter, and tonight was shaping up to be anything but ordinary. Beverly's expression darkened as she crossed her arms. "First rule, no electronics. Hand over your tablet now." Liam hesitated, clutching the device tighter. "Why? My parents never said." "Because I said so," Beverly snapped. "And if you talk back again, I'll make sure they hear all about how you misbehaved tonight. Maybe they'll finally decide to send you somewhere you belong." Liam reluctantly handed over the tablet, feeling uneasy. "What about dinner? Dad gave you money to order food." "Dinner?" Beverly scoffed. "Do I look like your maid? You'll eat when I say you can, and not a moment sooner. Now go sit down and be quiet." Liam's stomach growled, but he knew arguing would only make things worse. He shuffled toward the couch, his mind racing with questions about why Beverly was acting this way. Meanwhile, across the street, Liam's neighbor and best friend, Tasha, was sitting on her porch. She noticed Beverly's abrupt movements through the window and how Liam seemed unusually still. Tasha had always been protective of her friend, especially since she knew he had a knack for getting into trouble without meaning to. Something about this babysitter didn't sit right with her. Tasha leaned back, watching the house more closely. As the lights inside flickered and dimmed, she decided to keep a closer eye on things. She knew Liam well enough to sense when something wasn't normal. Inside, Beverly continued her reign of control. She rummaged through the kitchen, muttering under her breath about the Andersons' lack of discipline. When Liam asked for water, she rolled her eyes but relented, shoving a glass into his hands without a word. The tension grew thicker as the minutes passed. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something more was behind Beverly's behavior. He decided he needed to figure it out, and fast. As the evening wore on, Beverly's true intentions began to unfold. She walked to the back door, glancing out nervously before making a quick phone call. Her voice was low but tense. "Yeah, the kid's here. But he won't be a problem," she muttered. "Bring it, I'll handle the rest." Liam, sitting quietly in the living room, could hear her faintly. His curiosity grew, but he stayed silent, unsure of what she was planning. Moments later, the doorbell rang. Beverly rushed to open it, ushering in a man carrying a large duffel bag. "Carl," she greeted him, shutting the door quickly. "You're late." "Relax," Carl replied, dropping the bag on the kitchen counter. "What's the rush?" Liam peeked around the corner from the hallway. He watched as Beverly unzipped the bag slightly, revealing what looked like small packages wrapped in brown paper. "Are you sure about this?" Carl asked. "What if the parents come back early?" "They won't," Beverly snapped. "Now stop asking questions and stick to the plan." Liam's heart raced. He didn't know exactly what they were up to, but it was clear this was no ordinary visit. He tried to inch closer, careful not to make a sound. Beverly suddenly turned around, her eyes narrowing. "What are you doing back there?" she barked. "I was just getting water," Liam stammered, trying to sound innocent. "Water?" Beverly marched over, grabbing his arm. "Don't play dumb with me. You were eavesdropping, weren't you?" "No, I wasn't," Liam protested. Beverly wasn't convinced. She snatched Liam's phone from his pocket. "If you think you're going to tattle to anyone, think again. You won't be calling anyone tonight." Carl watched the exchange silently, a smirk forming on his face. "Tough kid," he remarked. Beverly shot him a glare. "Stay out of it. He won't be a problem anymore." She shoved the phone into her bag and turned back to Carl. "Let's get this done." Liam stood frozen, his mind racing with ideas. He had to find another way to expose what was happening, and he had to do it before the night was over. Liam sat quietly, his heart pounding as he tried to think of a way to fight back. With his phone gone, he remembered his smartwatch. He quickly activated the recording feature, making sure to keep his movements subtle. If he could capture enough evidence, there might still be hope. As he pretended to adjust the strap, his smartwatch vibrated. It was a message from Tasha. She had seen Carl enter the house and wanted to check on him. Liam glanced at Beverly to ensure she wasn't watching, then discreetly typed back, explaining the situation. He described how Beverly had taken his phone, Carl's arrival with the bag, and their suspicious conversation. Tasha didn't hesitate. She told Liam she would get help, and mentioned her older brother Marcus, who worked at a security firm. Liam felt a glimmer of hope. If Marcus got involved, they might have a chance to stop whatever Beverly and Carl were planning. Liam continued recording, moving around the house as naturally as possible. He caught snippets of Beverly and Carl discussing delivery times and payments, their voices rising when they disagreed. Every word was another piece of evidence he could use. Another vibration from his smartwatch brought reassurance. Tasha confirmed that Marcus was making calls and had instructed her to tell Liam to stay calm and keep recording. Liam nodded to himself, his determination growing. He knew he couldn't directly confront Beverly, but he could outsmart her. The tension in the house grew as Beverly and Carl's argument became louder. Their voices carried through the hallways, making it impossible for Liam to ignore. Beverly was pacing, her tone sharp and demanding, while Carl leaned casually against the kitchen counter, clearly unimpressed. "I told you this would be simple," Beverly hissed. "Just grab what we need and leave before they come back." Carl smirked. "Relax, you're too paranoid, we've got hours." "You don't get it," Beverly snapped. "If that kid says anything, we're done." Liam stayed hidden near the corner, his smartwatch still recording. His nerves were on edge, but his sharp instincts kept him focused. As he listened, he noticed Beverly pulling open a drawer in the hallway table. His heart sank as she took out a small envelope labeled Emergency Fund. She waved it at Carl. "This will cover us if something goes wrong. They won't even notice it's gone until it's too late." Liam clenched his fists. This wasn't just about sneaking around anymore. They were stealing from his family. He knew he needed undeniable proof, but time was running out. Meanwhile, across the street, Tasha and Marcus were working on a plan. Marcus, having years of experience in security, knew rushing in could alert Beverly and Carl to Liam's actions. Instead, he decided to stay nearby and monitor the situation, waiting for the right moment to act. Tasha kept Liam updated through his smartwatch. She reassured him that Marcus had already contacted the authorities, but they needed solid evidence to ensure Beverly and Carl couldn't deny what they were doing. Liam's determination grew. With his parents' money now involved, he realized just how serious the situation had become. He crept closer, angling his wrist to make sure the smartwatch caught everything Beverly was saying. Every second counted, and he wasn't about to let them get away with this. Beverly, growing more anxious as the night went on, pulled out her phone and made a quick call. Liam, still lurking nearby, strained to hear. A few minutes later, a car pulled up outside. A new figure entered the house, Nina, a sharp-eyed woman who immediately began questioning the situation. "What's the deal, Beverly?" Nina asked, glancing at Liam as she set her purse on the counter. "You said this job would be easy. Babysitting? Really?" Beverly waved her off. "It's just a cover. The parents are clueless, and the kid doesn't matter." Nina frowned. "Doesn't matter? You dragged a kid into this, and now you've got Carl involved too? What's next? Half the neighborhood?" Liam could sense the tension between them and decided to use it to his advantage. Quietly, he inched closer, deliberately letting a small noise escape. Beverly's head snapped around, but Liam ducked into a corner before she could see him. "What was that?" Nina asked, crossing her arms. "Nothing," Beverly replied quickly. "The kid knows better than to cause trouble." Nina didn't look convinced. "You're in over your head. This isn't how we agreed to do things. If this falls apart, I'm not taking the blame." From his hiding spot, Liam had an idea. He whispered into his smartwatch, recording his next move. He carefully knocked over a small stack of books near the living room, causing a loud crash. The sound startled the group. Carl muttered under his breath, "Great, now the kid's snooping around. What else haven't you told us, Beverly?" Nina's suspicion deepened. "You're hiding something, aren't you? Is this even worth it?" Liam's calculated move worked. The cracks in their partnership widened as Carl and Nina began questioning Beverly's judgment. Carl, looking increasingly annoyed, stepped forward. "If you think you're getting the same cut as me for babysitting some brat, think again," Carl said. "I'm taking double. You wouldn't even have this gig without me." Beverly's face turned red with anger. "Double? Are you insane? I'm the one taking all the risks here." The argument escalated, with accusations flying between the three. Liam stayed hidden, quietly recording every word. He knew the tension could work in his favor, and the more they fought, the closer they came to exposing themselves. Liam knew he had to act fast. With the argument among Beverly, Carl, and Nina escalating, he quietly slipped upstairs to his room. He shut the door, locking it behind him, and activated his smartwatch's live streaming feature. Tasha's face appeared on the tiny screen. "Liam, are you okay?" she whispered. "I'm fine, but it's bad," Liam replied, keeping his voice low. "They're stealing from my parents and arguing about their plan. Record this." Liam pointed the smartwatch toward the door, capturing the muffled voices of the group downstairs. Tasha quickly began recording the stream, while Marcus, standing beside her, made a call to the authorities. Downstairs, Beverly suddenly paused mid-argument, her instincts kicking in. "Where's the kid?" she demanded, her eyes darting around. Nina raised an eyebrow. "Why does it matter? He's probably hiding somewhere." "It matters," Beverly hissed. "He's sneaky. If he's heard anything, we're all done." Carl groaned. "You're paranoid." Ignoring him, Beverly stormed upstairs, her heavy footsteps echoing through the house. Liam's heart raced as he ended the stream and hid the smartwatch under his pillow. He grabbed a comic book from his desk and sat on his bed, pretending to read when she barged in. "What are you doing up here?" Beverly snapped, scanning the room. "Reading," Liam replied innocently, holding up the comic. Beverly wasn't convinced. Her eyes swept the room, landing on his smartwatch on the nightstand. She grabbed it, her face twisted in frustration. "You've been recording us, haven't you?" Liam shrugged, keeping his composure. "It's just a watch. What would I even record?" Beverly glared at him, but before she could say more, Carl shouted from downstairs. "Cops! Someone called the cops!" Her expression changed to panic as she dropped the smartwatch and bolted back downstairs. Liam grabbed it and stuffed it into his pocket before following her. Outside, the Andersons pulled up in their car, their faces filled with confusion and concern. 2 police cars followed closely behind. Marcus was already there, explaining the situation to the officers. As the Andersons and the police entered the house, Beverly, Carl, and Nina scrambled to maintain control of the situation. Carl instinctively grabbed the duffel bag, but the officers were already closing in. "What's happening here?" Mr. Anderson demanded, his voice sharp as he took in the scene. Beverly, quick to switch gears, immediately adopted a defensive tone. "Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, I can explain. Your son has been lying and causing trouble all night. He's making it seem like I've done something wrong." Liam stood beside the officers, his smartwatch in hand. Before he could speak, Marcus stepped forward, holding up the recorded evidence. "Actually, we have proof of everything," he said, signaling the officers to play the video. Beverly's face hardened as her own voice filled the room. The recording showed her taking the emergency cash, Carl discussing contraband, and Nina questioning their plan. Every incriminating word was laid bare. Mr. Anderson's expression darkened as he turned to Beverly. "You stole from us, and you brought these people into our home?" Beverly raised her hands in mock innocence. "That's not the full story. This kid, he's sneaky. He probably edited this recording somehow." The police officers didn't hesitate. They opened the duffel bag, revealing the stolen cash, neatly wrapped contraband, and tools that suggested plans for other crimes. Nina took a step back, distancing herself from Beverly. "This was all her idea," Nina blurted, pointing at Beverly. "She dragged us into this mess." Carl, clearly annoyed, threw his hands up. "I'm not taking the fall for this. She said it'd be easy money." Beverly's composure cracked. "You're both pathetic. Don't act like you didn't agree to this." The officers moved swiftly, placing handcuffs on all three. Beverly glared at Liam. "You think you're smart, kid? You'll regret this someday." Liam didn't falter. He stood firm, knowing he had done everything to protect his family. The police cars pulled away, taking Beverly and her accomplices into custody. The neighborhood, which had been watching the commotion unfold, began to settle. Inside the house, the Andersons turned their attention to Liam, their expressions a mix of relief and guilt. "We should have trusted you, Liam," Mr. Anderson said, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "You tried to tell us, and we didn't listen." Mrs. Anderson knelt down, her voice soft. "You were so brave tonight. You stood up for us and protected our home. We're so proud of you." Liam nodded, feeling a sense of pride mixed with exhaustion. "I just knew I had to do something," he replied. "I couldn't let them get away with it." Across the street, Tasha and Marcus walked over, greeted with warm thanks from the Andersons. "We couldn't have done this without you two," Mrs. Anderson said. "Your quick thinking made all the difference." Marcus smiled modestly. "Liam's the real hero here. He stayed calm and recorded everything. That's not easy for a kid his age." Tasha grinned at Liam. "Told you I had your back." The family invited Tasha and Marcus inside, offering them a warm drink as they reflected on the night's events. Liam shared how he had used his smartwatch to gather evidence and keep Tasha informed, and Marcus explained how he coordinated with the authorities without raising suspicion. As the evening wound down, Liam sat quietly for a moment, thinking about everything that had happened. He realized the importance of trusting his instincts and standing up for himself, even when others didn't believe him. He also understood how technology, when used responsibly, could be a powerful tool for justice. Looking at his parents, Liam spoke with newfound confidence. "Sometimes you just have to do what's right, even if no one believes you at first." Mr. Anderson nodded. "You taught us a lesson tonight, Liam. From now on, we'll listen more carefully." The house felt safe again, and the Andersons knew their family bond had grown stronger. The night had been chaotic, but it ended with a renewed sense of trust and unity. Liam's story teaches us an important lesson about standing up against wrongdoing, even when it feels like the odds are stacked against you. His bravery in the face of manipulation and dishonesty not only protected his family, but also ensured justice was served. This story isn't just about a boy outsmarting a corrupt babysitter. It's about trust. The Andersons learned the importance of listening to one another, and Liam taught us all that even the smallest voices can make a big difference. In a world where challenges often come disguised, let's strive to stay vigilant, act with courage, and stand together for what's right. Because in the end, truth and justice will always prevail. Also, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that will leave you thinking long after the credits roll.